Hello, hello. We are going to be talking with the super talented, amazing artist, Human, aka Allison. So thank you for joining. I'm going to sign her in right now. Perfect. Allison!
I can't see you.
Ah! Darn these
It's
tech
black.
issues.
Can you see me? Oh, there we go. Oh,
Yay!
hi.
Hi, love. How are you?
Oh my God, I love that you're wearing a red lip.
I had to put on a red lip. I did it last Friday and I did it again today just 'cause. Why
Uh-huh.
not?
You got your drinky
Um,
drink?
I had the drinky drink. Cheers, love. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm. So what's crazy is I had to have my team have a little drink with me too on a Monday because
Mm-hmm.
we are continuing to celebrate Women's History Month. And I love that we're kicking off Filipino Week with you. So, for those that don't know, Allison is an amazing graffiti artist, painter, illustrator, visual artist. She was born and raised in the East Bay, and tons of her work can be seen in LA, in Oakland, in San Francisco, tons of other places. And I'm just super happy to connect with you. So, thanks for being here.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're just gonna have a conversation about how you got started in the industry. Um,
Yeah.
like, first of all, how did you come up with your artist name, Human?
I tell this story all the time, so I'm sure the people who already follow me don't want to hear it for the millionth time. But it basically means like hue, like color. And the first time I ever painted a wall, well, not the first time, one of my first murals, not exactly the first time I painted a wall, but the first time I painted a wall after I had this really crazy come to Jesus moment, I felt human because I was using my whole body and I wasn't by myself in my room. And so when it came time to sign a wall, it kind of felt natural. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why I like to use that name, but also I like that it's gender neutral in the sense that if I put it on a wall, you're paying more attention to the artwork itself and not the fact that like a female made it. And because we're all humans, we're just
Right.
human beings. So.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you have human in your name because that's actually one of our missions is making space to be human because we are human and we're all connected, just like you said. How did Okay, so growing up in the East Bay, which is crazy because we grew up in the same
We
little
grew up so close to each other,
neighborhood.
and I just met you like 2 months ago, which is
I know, which
insane.
is crazy. And that was like one of the biggest connectors. I was like, no, you know where Union City is? Like, how the heck?
Yeah, I know where Union City is. I was
Because everybody
mobbing
else
around Union City.
I know, I love it. So, I used to have a bunch of friends that used to tag stuff up and they were super into graffiti. And, now they're doing really, really amazing, beautiful things in graphic design and illustration. And, how did you get started in that medium and when did you get started?
I just, as a young kid, I was always into graffiti. My older brother was a big hip hop head. He was a b-boy, and so he very much was trying to mold me into this little like hip hop girl. And
That's cute.
he saw that I knew how to draw, and so he's like, "Oh, take a look at this," and he would like show me graffiti and stuff, and also just growing up in the East Bay, you pass by like Oakland and just on the freeways, like you see it on the side of 880. You see it on the trains. So
Mhm.
it's always been part of like my aesthetic. And I wouldn't call myself a graffiti artist. I've probably like can count on one hand how many times I've done something that wasn't legal, as far as painting goes. But I'm inspired by that world, and I'm very much influenced by that world. And yeah, so that's how I got interested in it. And I don't know, it's just like my journey's such like a long one that kind of like winds around and around. But it started with that really, and then I was also very much a computer nerd as a kid. I
Uh-huh.
was like designing graphics on bootleg copies of Photoshop when I was like 11 years old.
Oh
And
my gosh, you started
yeah, so I
young.
would like I would tag my name, and my name back then was Alize.
Alizé.
Oh God, let me just take a drink after that.
Alizé.
Alize was what I would write, and so I
Uh-huh.
would like write out Alize, and then I would scan it, and then I would color it in Photoshop, and like do all sorts of stuff with that. And so yeah, that's kind of like my. Hi, wait, you want to see someone?
Yes, of course. Hi,
This
baby
is
girl.
Sophie.
Hi,
Say
Sophie.
hi.
Hi,
Can you say hi?
Lovey. Hi. How old are you?
She is going to be 20 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so a little over 1.5. Say hi, baby.
So fun.
Okay, she's eating Elmo.
Hi.
Hey, go
Hi.
to Dada.
Oh, I love that she
Hi.
made a little special guest
Okay, well, she's
appearance.
gonna sit here because
Yes,
she's just hanging
please
out.
have her.
So yeah, so that's the start of it, and then like through college, I was like painting in my boyfriend, now husband's band's room. They had this band where.
Hi.
What did you want to say? Yeah, you want to play with the guitar? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Aww.
Bye.
Yeah. You can pop in anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, so my boyfriend, now husband, he was in this band, and they would practice in this like band room at his friend's parents' house, and it was just like covered in graffiti, and just like that was like the party house. And so that's where I like did my very first mural.
Oh,
And
fun.
yeah, and that was fun. And from then it kind of like sparked something in me to like just start painting big.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, and then I guess if you want to fast forward to how I started doing what I'm doing now, oh God, I feel like it's such
You've
a
had
long
quite
journey.
the journey.
Okay, yeah, it's just I was doing freelance illustration for like
Ah.
Disney, and um, I was also doing work for Playboy TV, which two very different ends of the spectrum.
You went from Disney to Playboy?
Yeah, sometimes at the same time. And yeah, it was just a lot of like working as a designer, like a freelance designer for clients and corporate companies, and then at the same time I was pursuing doing the mural thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as so I got hired by Playboy, and that was actually my very first like office job. Because before that I had been self-employed like this whole time doing graphics and branding and web design and stuff. And this
Uh,
is my first like office, like come to work 9 to 5. And so I was actually starting to get really comfortable
uh,
doing that because it was like a steady paycheck. and
yeah, as
and
one
so
does,
yeah, and so
especially as a
like
creative. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like,
totally. And like I really fell in, like, since we're talking about femmes in production, like I
yes,
really fell in love with set life. And I was
yeah.
helping put together these like productions for like social media content. And I
Oh,
was like doing a lot of stuff like that, coming up with campaigns and stuff. And I really liked the people that I worked with. So I was just like, damn, I think I can like keep doing this. And
uh-huh.
at the same time, I was like pursuing murals, and that side was starting to really like take off. So I felt like I was kind of straddling like two places at once. Like, am I going to go this corporate direction where I have like a desk job but a steady paycheck, or am I gonna like be an artist and like be a full-time artist and like work for myself officially? And and I was leaning more towards like the desk job thing because it was steady, and for a long time I was super broke. And but then our marketing team got laid off.
Ah,
So,
as
and it was
one does,
funny.
like it's always a marketing team.
It's always the marketing team. They're
Yeah.
not as valued, but they
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and we were laid off, and I remember painting a mural when I got the call, and they told me that that I wouldn't be working for them anymore. And so I
In the
literally looked at
middle,
like my hand, and I had a spray can in my hand, and I was like, oh,
right?
well, I guess this is what I'm gonna do. And I've just been doing it ever since. So
I
I
love
made it
that.
work. Yeah.
That's a big fork in the road. There's always that, like, do I do the safe, comfortable route,
Mm-hmm.
or do I jump and take the leap? And I'm so glad that you did, because
Yeah. I
all of
mean,
these,
the decision was made for me, and I'm so glad it was, because I feel like I could have done that for another few years before I like officially made a decision. So they kind of just like pushed me in the water, and like I had to figure out how to swim.
yeah. So, okay. So you went down this path. What are like some of the first projects that you got into?
Since going full time,
Mm-hmm.
I did like a few. Okay, yeah, I did stuff like campaigns for. Remember Truth?
Yeah.
The no smoking
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I did a few things for like the Truth campaign, like some live art type things, and
Wow.
I remember I around that time I was on an episode of Pawn Stars,
Yeah.
and yeah, I painted the Pawn Stars like pawn shop in Las Vegas, and
That's
it's
crazy.
so funny because I heard of Pawn Stars, but I didn't realize how big that show was.
Oh, it's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah,
And
totally.
they play my episode like maybe once or twice a year. So
Mhm.
whenever that happens, I get like this influx of followers. They're like, I saw you on Pawn Stars. And I'm just like, that's so weird. Because I thought it was just such like, I thought no one was going to see it. I was just like, okay, I'll be on a reality show for like
Yeah.
a day. So that was one of the weird things I did around that time. I did, what else did I did like some live, it was a lot of like live art type activation type stuff in the beginning,
Wow.
like for Hyundai and yeah, and Heineken and stuff like that.
Wow. So, okay, you did a ton of live art. Where did you get that confidence from? Because, you're doing something that you've created in your mind and you're putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is pretty dope that you just like went and did it and you just made it happen.
Thank you.
What
Well,
are
I
some of,
always just, it's so natural to me. Like everything else felt like I had to really try. But when
ah,
it comes to my art or just creating stuff that I want to create, like it kind of just comes naturally, you know?
well, see, and that's where I always think if it comes naturally, that's what you're supposed
That's
to
what
be
you should
doing.
be doing, right?
Uh-huh. I love that so much. That's how I feel once I opened up CL. It was very natural. I mean,
Mm.
lots of blood, sweat, and tears.
Well, I mean, okay, so I know this is this conversation's about me, but I need to ask you, like,
Ask me.
how intimidating was that? Because I mean, you take up a whole entire like city block,
I know.
and to just decide like I'm gonna open up this crazy huge production creative space, like how does that even like begin to happen?
I've always had the vision for it. I always
Mm-hmm.
felt like I needed to put the East Bay on the map in terms of having a creative hub, because it really comes down to community and collaboration for me. I think that's really where the magic happens. And because of all the different people that I've met throughout my career, and it was just like word of mouth, it just happened naturally, like you said. So it was just like, yeah, of course, I'll open up a huge ass space. Why not? It didn't intimidate me. It was more of like, yeah, we should. It needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
amazing.
I was going to ask, because a lot of the times when people walk into CL, they're like, oh, where do you draw inspiration from? So I want to ask you, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Oh, so many places. I think first, nature is the most, I don't know, just it's always been something that's been inspiring to me. Like I'll take pictures of the sky if it's like cool colors, and I like literally I have like files and folders of just random things I've taken pictures of in nature, like rocks and minerals and water and plants. And if you look at my work, there's a lot of like floral type stuff that sometimes I don't even include for any other reason but the fact that I like the texture and the way the light is hitting it.
Right.
So nature for sure. And I I'm really like, I feel like most painters would say this, but like a lot of the Renaissance and Baroque artwork was really something that kind of pulled me in as a little kid. My parents had like coffee table books about like Roman and Greek sculpture and Baroque art and stuff. So it was just like things that I would just like thumb through as a kid.
That's awesome.
And also anime. I was like really into anime when I was a kid, and just a ton of stuff. Even video games. I was huge into video games, and I actually wanted to go into video game design when I was younger. Because I was like really into the graphic design thing, as I told you, and so I was like starting to pursue that path a little bit. I went to the Academy of Art to take some like video game design courses. And then I got like turned off going to my first classes just because I felt like the community, I didn't really fit in with the community there. I guess because I was like the only chick in the class. And yeah, but it's just, yeah, I pull like my influences and inspiration from everywhere. And then of course, like just people, humans, and the human condition. And there's I don't want my artwork to be like dark, but I do feel like I do pull a lot from like emotion, and I'm always trying to portray emotion through like the expressions that I paint or the poses, because I'm not necessarily painting like any person in particular. It's always just like an idea. An idea.
Yeah, it's very emotive, and like I met you through your art first, and I could already sense that amazing energy. Like I could, as you're talking through all these different elements of your inspiration, I could see that in all of the different pieces, and I love that you're able to turn that into what your aesthetic is now. It's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
What's the craziest project you ever worked on?
Something top secret that I'm working on right now, and that people won't even know about it for another 2 years. Yeah, it's like the craziest. Like you can't even.
Damn it!
I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you even like a little bit. It's like so crazy, and it's gonna come back around in 2 years, and I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I worked on that. So that's the craziest thing. But the next craziest thing is probably, well, what kind of crazy? Like
there's all kinds of crazies. I don't
know. There's all kinds of crazy.
I know. Yeah, there is. Okay, what's like
crazy? I would say, okay, bad crazy would have to be, and I don't want to talk down because I feel like if I like mention a project in a bad way, that it might have some sort of bad reflection on the people who helped facilitate it, which is not true. But I painted a mural in San Francisco. This is bad crazy,
Okay.
by the way, bad crazy. I painted a mural in an alleyway, and it took up 5 buildings in San Francisco. And it was part of like a community challenge grant, because they wanted to help bring, I think the idea was that art was going to help revitalize the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you can't just like throw paint on something and say, look, like things are better now.
Right.
And I think that's what they thought they could do there. And, but that area was just like, it was like, bordering the Tenderloin.
Uh-huh.
And, so a lot of people were angry that I was painting in this alleyway for some reason.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of like crazy activity that was going on in this alleyway. So, for example, I was painting up high, like 5 stories up.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I come down, someone's already tagged the mural that says, fuck this mural. And I'm like, why am I doing, and this would happen like almost every other day of the 2-week project. And I'd find crazy. Someone, because I'd be like painting up here, and then someone would come down below and just like tag it.
Oh.
And so like shit like that would happen. I had like verbal fights with truck drivers. Like I had gotten all the permits to close down this alleyway because mm-hmm. this was like being facilitated by the city. Mm-hmm. So I had all the permits, and yet everyone ignored all the signs, and like trucks would come and unload stuff. So then I'd be like, you can't park here. So then a few times a day, I was like shouting at people.
Yeah.
And then I got in a fight with an Uber driver, and he threatened to hit me. Yeah, it was all bad.
Okay, that is bad crazy.
Yeah, it's bad crazy. And I remember too, because I was like, this was like already towards the end of the project. And because my lift, I had like a huge boom lift in the middle of the alleyway. So it was like blocking the street, which is why I got the permit. Uh-huh. But this dude ignored all the signs, ignored the fact that I had my huge lift in the middle of the street, and then starts honking at me. And so I get down, I'm like, buddy, read the signs. Like, yeah. I got a lift here. I got permits. Like, go in reverse. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I got to drop her off. and this lady's in the back seat, or this girl's in the back seat. And she's like, oh my God. And she's like so embarrassed. And so he starts cussing at me. And then we're just like having like this huge like verbal altercation. So I look in the back and I'm like, excuse me, is this your Uber driver? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, you got to give his ass a 1. And he hated that.
Uh-huh. Good for you.
And then he just starts inching, and he's trying to like clamp my legs between his car and the lift. And so, and then, I mean, on top of all of that, then there were people that were like shooting up in front of the mural that I had to tell to like leave. And so there was like something happening every single day of those 2 weeks. And the very last day before I signed the mural and finished it, there was a dumpster, and I get there in the morning, someone had flipped the dumpster over, and it's just trash. It's like trash tumbleweeds, just like rolling down the entire alley. And I remember waking up every morning, like almost like in a panic attack, like, fuck, I gotta go to work today.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
There's always something happening. It
was terrible. And yeah, it was nuts. So that was bad crazy.
And how long did that entire project take?
Like 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks of hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think, okay, so this is going to bring me to a different question, because you're in a male-dominated space. Mm-hmm. I'm also in a very male-dominated space, and I've definitely encountered some crazy-ass shit, similar to what you're talking about. Do you think if you were a dude, you would have the same reaction?
In this case, yeah. I think people just did. I think a lot of people, especially in urban areas and like big cities like San Francisco, I mean, and Oakland and New York, and a lot of places that are rapidly changing and gentrifying. I think people feel a type of way about it, and so
Hmm.
and I think mural art and yeah, especially mural art, street art is now starting to. It's become a symptom of gentrification. So people see a mural go up in an area that might not be like very safe and think, oh wow, like this area has now become gentrified because someone's putting a mural up. And so there's a lot of hostility there with some people that might live in the neighborhood. And I think that's exactly what happened to me. It's like, get your fucking mural out of here. We don't
Hmm.
want you. And so it's really sad that it's come to that, because I mean we're still just the artists, you know. It's just, I
Right.
mean, like, it's more a symptom of gentrification. We're not the cause of gentrification. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean?
Hmm.
So, but because we're the ones on the street, we're the ones that that have to deal directly with the people who are complaining about it. So,
Oh, yeah, you guys are at the front lines.
mm-hmm,
I definitely felt that when we moved into this neighborhood. It was like we didn't want to disrupt the natural flow, but
mm-hmm,
like we wanted to kind of ease in to the neighborhood, which is why our building is like a really dark. It's called After Midnight Blue,
mm-hmm.
because we didn't want to make too much of a statement. But yeah, there was definitely those types of questions moving in. Whenever there's any kind of outside energy
Mm-hmm.
encroaching into like this stable energy of a neighborhood, it's always like, what the hell is going on?
Mm. Yeah. So you've been to Art House, where
Yeah.
my studio is, and we were painting. I mean, I painted Art House for on and off from the end of 2017 to the beginning of 2019.
Hmm.
And it's in the Jingletown neighborhood in Oakland, which is kind of like, it's like an industrial neighborhood,
Hmm.
and there are like lower income like communities over there. And excuse me, my
I
wife called.
know. I'm like, I was doing that earlier.
and and this is like a historic building. It used to be the Del Monte canning factory, and then it's like changed so much over the years. But now in its latest iteration, it's Art House Studios. And so we were painting like the entire exterior of this huge 5-story complex, multiple warehouses and buildings. And there were these dudes that were always posted up at the corner of the block, like giving me the stink eye every time I came to work. But then I felt worse for my brother and my friend Charlie. Charlie was the other artist that painted the building, because they painted directly at street level,
Um,
and these dudes were trying to directly intimidate them, and they were like, "We don't want you here," like, because
wow.
I think, yeah, they're like, "We don't want this mural, and we don't want you here," and they would just constantly stare them down. And now it's fine. I think because they realized they're not like residential units. They're not like these huge expensive condos that are really like making too much of a difference in their neighborhood. But when it was all happening, it was just like, who are you guys? Why are you moving in? Like, don't come here. We don't want you.
Uh,
Yeah, so it's rough. And that's just something that people who paint in public just have to deal with a lot, actually.
does that add a level of anxiety when you're out there and like you're painting, or do you have anyone
Um,
that kind of helps like block that type of energy away from you so you could create?
well, it's typically me. Um, I don't know. I have really good, I feel like I have really good like communication skills with people. So, so I think like I end up making most people feel comfortable,
Mm.
but I do work with my brother, and so there's like, you know, the strength in numbers thing. Like they see that I'm like with someone, and so, you know, that also keeps people from trying to do too much. But I mean, I try to just talk to anyone anyway. If they're like curious about what I'm doing, I try to like tell them about what's happening, because I never want anyone to feel like I'm just coming into their neighborhood and just like, I'm just going to come here and do this, and
Right.
whether you like it or not, you know?
Mhm.
But people do come by and they're like, I don't like that. I'm just like, all right.
They have the nerve to come up and be like to your face.
Yeah, like why does she look so sad? I've gotten that before. Like,
Oh my goodness. And what do you
why are you
tell
using
them?
this? Telling us.
Oh,
Oh
yeah, why
well.
don't you come here and draw it? Why don't you do it?
Yeah. I think it takes a certain kind of personality to like work, like be a street artist or muralist, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call it,
Mhm.
because you're constantly have to deal with all sorts of personalities all the time, just on the street, you
Yeah,
know.
it's very public and it's very much like managing the energy around you.
Hmm.
So, how do you stay focused in those types of settings?
Um, I just have my headphones in.
Yeah.
That partly it's so no one like tries to bother me. Because there are a lot of people that are just like, oh, what color are you using? What kind of paint is that? I'm just like, okay, go away.
Go away. Not right now,
Go
dude.
away. And so I've got like my headphones in. I listen to podcasts.
Mhm. What kind of
This
podcasts are you listening to?
uh okay. Let's see. Like I like Tiger Belly. Do you know Tiger Belly?
No, tell me more.
Do you know the comedian Bobby Lee?
Uh-huh.
He's just like a ridiculous like Korean
Yeah.
comedian guy. I listen to his podcast a lot. I listen to, what else do I listen to? I've been listening to the Office ladies podcast.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
just like
yeah.
break down I'm like obsessed with the Office,
Me
and
too.
I'm sad that they took it down from Netflix, because that's one of those things I just kind of
I
keep
know.
on in the background.
Hmm.
What other podcasts am I listening to? Where's my phone? Oh, I'm on my phone. Never mind. I can't look
I
at my
know.
phone right
You
now.
can't look at it. Did you know
Um,
that we have like a little, we do a little series every week called Tune In Tuesdays, and the inspiration was drawn from The Office. But
really?
basically, we take something that happened at CL and then we turn it into this little skit. You have
Oh,
to check
that's
it
cute.
out.
You
We
guys
did,
have such like a cute work culture over there. I want to come work at CL.
yeah, anytime. Yeah, we were just talking about it today with one of my senior coordinators, Marion. Shout out to Marion. About how everyone on our team has really good intentions and everybody really, really has each other's backs. And I think that that's super important in any kind of environment, because
Mm-hmm.
then you're able to do what you need to do without overthinking it or having to
Mm-hmm.
worry about any of that external stuff,
Oh, totally.
you know?
It all
So,
matters about, it all matters like the energy that you have surrounding you,
yeah,
for sure.
energy is super big. Like
Mm-hmm.
I recently started getting into like, because I've been working from home a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I am like busting out my Palo Santo, lighting my
Uh-huh.
candles, getting
Mm-hmm.
my coffee or tea, and then I have like my day ready, which is crazy because I never used to do that. It was
Mm-hmm.
always like, okay, wake up, check emails, go into
Mm-hmm.
work, check social, and like, and now because because of 2020, I think
Mm-hmm.
I really just I know how to balance way better.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one of those like unforeseen blessings, right? From
yeah,
COVID, is like it helped a lot of people like figure out a lot of stuff, you know? Um,
100%.
yeah, even like workflow and just like how to be like a more balanced but also productive person, and like figuring out a way to channel your creativity with like routine and stuff.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of routine, I know that you're a new mommy. She's 20 months now, and like how did motherhood change the way you do art, and how did your art evolve after motherhood?
Um, I don't know if my art evolved, but I would definitely say my workflow did,
Uh-huh.
because before a kid, I had all the time in the world. to like be creative, I would just sit in my studio and just kind of stare at the wall, and that would be my creative process.
I love that.
I'm just like spinning in my chair, and then I'm like, oh, it's time to go home, and that's just part of the creative process. I don't like do anything, um, and now it's figuring out like how to be productive and creative like efficiently, and it's not that like I've had to like force myself to be creative, but like when I set blocks of time just for work, um it like helps does do something for, I don't know, just like the way I think. So maybe it is like kind of,
it's a little bit more structured.
It's structured, yeah. And first it started with me getting back together with my husband. And we got back together in 2014. And since then, because he works a regular job, I've had to figure out like, okay, I'm going to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. like a regular person with a regular job, or else I'm not going to have a relationship. Because at some point you got to like cook dinner together and like watch your favorite shows, and you can't just like spin around in your chair and stare at the wall. And so it started with him, and now like with Sophie, it's okay, she's at school from these hours, I have to like make sure I'm like, doing stuff. So it's helped me be productive, it's helped me be efficient, and and then I guess it would kind of like affect like the things I make in that way, because now I'm making things on impulse too. I'm not just like, I'm like going with the first thing I think of. And so which I think is sometimes better because it's more raw that way, like going with like the first idea that comes out of me,
Yeah, because when I'm putting together a mood board for a shoot, or if I have like my creative hat on, I don't like to overthink it, because then I really start overthinking it, and then I completely go from here to here, and then it doesn't even relate. So I like that spontaneity, especially as a mother, because it saves some time too.
Yeah. It definitely helps me like not cut things, but like end things. Like I could be on a painting for weeks and just be like, oh, I need something, but because I don't have that kind of time, I'm like, whatever, it's done.
Yeah.
And but then it's like it's more raw that way, and and at least that way I'm not like overproducing something.
Right.
Well, because sometimes something could end up looking too polished or too something, and I like when my stuff looks rough and raw, and
So 2020, speaking about rough and raw, there's a lot of rough and raw moments in 2020. Like, you talked to me about how you started doing a little bit more of like mobile art, or not mobile, but like you would do art in your studio. Are you still doing that and then shipping it out, or like what's your process now?
Well, actually it started before COVID. It started because I have my daughter,
right?
So I got to stay just like home with her more. I can't like, because I was traveling like twice a month, and I would be gone for like a week and a half or 2 weeks at a time. So I was constantly just on the road painting and doing projects like back to back. And like I've had to make like a huge lifestyle change. And so so I figured out like a lot of the projects I do get are in like office spaces or smaller spaces. So, and I have a huge studio. So I figure, I could just paint a huge canvas in here and then roll it up and ship it out. Or I just fly with it and then install it for a day and then come back home. So it's been working out for me, and I've done quite a few already like that.
That's so amazing, because everybody's had to pivot in some way or transition the way that they work because of Yeah, not just
Mhm.
because of COVID, but technology or like life transitions, life changes.
Mhm.
And I know it was kind of a shock for me when I had my two kids because I was doing the same thing where I was traveling like
Mhm.
2 weeks out of every month
Mhm.
for different shoots. And then once I had kids, I was like, oh, I must go home now. I must go be a mother.
Yeah.
And it's like a different mindset, and you learn how to prioritize and really
Mhm.
make time for your family, for yourself. It isn't just always about work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it because yeah, I'm such a Capricorn.
You're
And
a
that I'm
Capricorn.
just
When's your
like
birthday?
December 24th.
Oh,
So I'm a
oh,
Christmas Eve baby.
you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh my God.
I can't hear them.
Okay, my daughter doesn't want to eat dinner, I guess. She's saying no.
Oh,
um, yeah, no, I'm a Capricorn, like very much a Capricorn. So I tend to be like a workaholic and I'm just always like prioritizing work. And so yeah, so it's good. It's good like that I have just like family and people in my life to like keep me grounded. And I mean, that's a big part of why I moved back to the Bay. I was in LA for a little over a decade and yeah, and I just really liked the idea of like coming home and being near my family.
hmm.
So
I love that.
yeah.
It's so nice. And I love that you're in Oakland, and I like it's just so close to Seattle. So like
Hmm.
we have to hang more.
I know we should. Now that everyone's
I
vaccinated.
know.
Not me yet.
I'm getting my first in a couple weeks, so I
Oh,
can't
it's
wait.
scheduled.
Yeah, I finally got to schedule mine, so I'm super stoked about that.
Awesome.
I did want to bring up the topic because we are both Filipina Americans, and because of all the crazy hate crimes happening right now,
Hmm.
I did want to bring that up and kind of shed some light on it. Um, are you okay with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love that you were so vulnerable and posted what you had posted a few days ago. So thanks for sharing that story. I think a lot of women can absolutely relate to that. And it's just like the ugly truth that we have to
Mhm.
go through as women in this society and this culture. Like how are you? How have you been given the environment right now?
Ugh, I mean, well, first it was already rough when we're hearing about these elderly people
Oh,
that look like our parents
I
getting
know.
pushed for no reason too. Like you would think that they would have a motive to like rob somebody, and a lot of these actually have just been just senseless like people like sucker punching people in the face.
I know. Oh.
And they look like my parents and they look like your parents and
Mhm.
it's just wild. And then this thing happened with the Atlanta shooting and then that just brought a whole new level to the whole thing about because then the conversation starts about the fetishization of Asian
Yeah.
women and how they're trying to, you know, like um, trying to dismiss it as like, well, no, he was trying to like eliminate his sexual temptations, but it's like, okay, but you also have to look at why these are,
Mhm.
you know, why does he feel entitled to Asian women? Like, there's so much to unpack with that,
Yeah.
and of course, it's due to stereotypes and. Someone like him believes that Asian women are there to serve and to please him, and yeah, it's wild. And so when I shared that story, it was, I mean, it was nothing to me to share that story. And I know people were saying, like, thanks for your courage and your bravery and sharing the story about your sexual assault and all that stuff. And honestly, to me, it was just a story I was sharing to, like, because I mean, it really, and maybe because I was numb to it, it didn't really feel like anything when I pressed send.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it was only until everyone started commenting, and I guess it like really struck a nerve with people, and I read the words that I had typed out, and that night I broke down. And everything that I had, it was weird. I was in this like crazy mindset where I started like reimagining all the times that I had been just like assaulted as just a female.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say assault, it doesn't necessarily mean like rape or anything like that, but just all the times I was grabbed and
Right.
like unwanted. Like I'd be standing on a street corner and someone would just like grab my ass and then like walk away and act like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking about all those times, and now as a mother thinking, because I had brushed that all off and dismissed it as, wow, like guys are gross sometimes.
Right. Well, and truth be told, when you posted that, I came to that realization too. Like, oh shit, I have had a lot of different assaults too. Like, I used to go party it up in San Francisco,
Oh yeah,
New York.
especially in like the nightlife scene. Like that's kind of
100%.
just a given.
Yeah.
I mean, when girls like grab their girlfriend's arm, like, oh my God, come over here.
Yeah, like
It's
help me.
because guys are trying to like grab at you, and it's just something that we have come to just accept as normal. Like guys are being guys. So when that happened to me, I mean, of course it was shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was just like, oh, guys are disgusting. But then reading those words and reading that, like after I had typed it and reading that, I was only 17 years old. I wasn't even an adult yet. And it was a group of guys who had plotted ahead of time to humiliate a young girl.
Yeah.
And then thinking about my own daughter being in that situation, that's when I just like, I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, Jesus Christ, like this is insane.
Yeah.
And so when that happened to those poor women and men, I know there was like men that were that lost their lives too. Just when that happened, that was just a whole nother. There's so many just intersecting things about just being a woman, being an Asian woman, and like an Asian woman, and the stereotype of Asian women being there to serve you sexually, and just like literally just being objects. There's the like jokes that people make about like just like Asian women being sex workers and stuff, and then it just started making me think about just all sorts of shit. Like when I had a very short dating period, but the people that I dated that were Asian, it was always like a thing like that they would get teased about by their friends, like, oh, so you're into Asians now, like, oh, like that's a thing.
Wow.
Like somehow that they must have an Asian thing or an Asian fetish because they chose to be with me. Like, what's that about?
Mm-hmm.
So there was just so much just on my mind that day about just all of it. And so it's been wild the last few days for sure. And exhausting. And then on top of that, also just feeling numb. Just because we haven't gotten a break, like we've just from everything that's been happening for the last year and a half now, almost. Well, not year and a half, a little over a year, just everything back to back with the elections and COVID. And I don't even have to list it off. And it's just been mentally exhausting. So by the time this came, I was just like,
I know. That's exactly how I felt.
okay.
Like on Friday, that numbness definitely hit me to where it was Thursday evening. I had slacked my team and I was like, I'm a female person of color who owns this community-based organization, and I am at a loss for words. I can't even express how I feel because it was like, it's a constant barrage. And then to think of like all the most recent events and then think about your own personal discrimination, like things that have happened to you, and then to go, intergenerational in terms of like, wow, this has been happening for decades. It's like,
for a long time.
yeah, and then it really hits you. So, yeah.
How are you doing? How are you
I'm,
doing with all that?
for me, I always look for the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm always figuring out like how to activate the community. I really had to ground myself first to really like let myself sink in with all those different emotions of like past traumas and like moments of discrimination, and then for this to be happening to our elders, that really hurt. That really hurt to see these like innocent folks just like on their way to the grocery store or waiting at a stoplight, like just going about their normal days to get
Yeah.
brutally attacked when they've lived such a long life already. And then for that to happen, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm doing okay. I had to do a lot of recentering. And then I had to figure out the best way to help support the community. So we're going to be doing a community series at CL where we're going to talk, just give people the mic to talk about any of their experiences and, just kind of thread it together. Because again, going back to what this is all about, we are human. We're all connected. So, I think if we could find the solidarity in these stories, I think that'll make it more relatable.
Absolutely. And also, I mean, the silver lining in all of this, with everything that's happened with COVID and time spent in isolation and just literally everything, BLM, the silver lining is always just the creativity and that comes out of it, and how can we channel this energy and this anger and this frustration. We could channel it into our artwork. We can channel it into our communities. We can channel it into the conversations we have with people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's always going to be a renaissance, right? A lot of beauty is created from trauma. So that to me is definitely the silver lining. We do have one question. Let me just pop this open. Okay, what are some of the hurdles women artists have to go through to make gains in urban art? Stuff maybe people don't notice or take for granted. Ooh, that's a good question.
So what, like, hurdles women have to face? You know, I don't know if you're gonna like my answer, but
If it's honest, I will love it.
Because I do think, and not that and thank you so much for your question, and I really appreciate the question. And so I don't want to say that this is a bad question, but I do receive questions that always starts with, what's it like being a female artist in like a male dominated whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're starting the question out like that, you're already insinuating that someone's had to overcome something, like as if I'm already being oppressed by just simply existing as a female, which hasn't necessarily been true for me. And I think it's because street art is so public. It's a democratic art form, right? So, because it's out in the public and people can see it and judge for themselves, no matter what your gender, sex, whatever race is. People will identify with the art itself. And so I think that's why I love being a public, like a street artist, a visual artist, a muralist, because at the end of the day, it's the art that speaks for me. And everything that happens to me because I'm a female artist is really because I'm a female. So I've gotten people saying things about what I wear to paint, but that's not because I'm a female artist, it's because I'm a female. Like, people have said things. Someone created a whole Instagram account, hater Instagram account, just for me.
Wait, what?
This was a few years ago, and saying things like, I must have slept with someone, I must have done this or that to get the opportunities I have, because how in the world could she have done this or that? And that's not because I'm a female artist. That's because people do that to females. No matter what industry you're in, people will come up with, well, she must have used her sexuality to get there. She must have done this or that. And so, so thank you so much for the question, whoever asked that. But it's more just a female thing, you know. I don't want to blame it on the industry, because I've met so many amazing men, and it is a male-dominated industry. But I have met a lot of amazing men in the industry, and the ones that are sleazeballs, you'll find them wherever you go, no matter where you are. There's gross dudes are gross dudes.
Well, and see, this all goes back to
Wait, sorry, my friend Anna Sterling said, didn't someone even call Cyrus something? Oh my God. So this is another hater Instagram account. This is separate from, I don't know why. Some people don't like me, but someone made a hater Instagram account. And this is why I don't post my husband on my Instagram, by the way. I would if people didn't make it so weird. But someone took a picture of he and I and then posted a caption that said, like, fuck human, and also her husband has a gambling problem.
Wait, okay. When you bring the partners or family into it, you're like, wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Why do you have to go that low?
And I was just like, he absolutely does not have, it was like just a lie. Like, they just made up a lie and they made it as the caption. And I was just like, what? You're just making up like non-facts now and just putting it on the internet. And so, yeah, but I mean, that kind of stuff, it might happen to me more because I'm a female, but that stuff happens to guys too. I mean, there's like graffiti beef all the time, you know, like, so it's not just a female thing. It's just sometimes you got haters.
Well, haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
Well, see, that was beautifully said, and you fucking rocked that answer. So thanks for even, thank you for even speaking to it, because like when I had first, I could totally relate. When I had first opened up CL, it was like, oh, you're a woman. Oh my gosh. And it's like, now I'm doing this because I want to do this. Not, you know, it's like, okay, dope that I'm like a female person of color. Yes, yes, yes. But I'm doing this because it speaks to my soul, and it speaks to my essence and what I'm here to do on this earth. So, you know, I think, you know, the lesson is do what you got to do to make yourself happy.
Yeah. And also the work, at the end of the day, the work always speaks for itself. Always. Like, because, and especially with what you and I do, you know, like, our work exists without us having to be there. We make it, and then it like goes out in the world, and no one even has to know that a female made it, you know? And so that's why the work always speaks for itself. And if you're a bad artist, it's not because you're female or a male, it's because you're bad.
Speaking truth on this Monday IG Live. So, okay, I don't want to take up too much time because I know your daughter has to eat and it's probably dinner time, but I do want to ask one last question. Like, what are some of the reactions that you absolutely loved when you, like, if people didn't know they were in the room with you and they saw your art, what are some of those reactions that you loved hearing?
Oh, I don't know. It is, well, okay. I have been at my shows, like at my own art shows, where people didn't realize I was the artist. So I would hear them just trying to interpret what things mean.
Ooh, that must be fun.
I'm sorry, I don't remember any of it. I just remember like being tickled at like them coming up with something that completely wasn't there. But I loved it. I love that my work made them think so much about it that they're like, oh, well, this must represent this and that, and this must be this, or I see this in this part. And so it always makes me laugh when I hear
Yeah,
people do
that
that.
must be so fun.
Or like they'll come up to me and they're like, oh, me and my friend are debating, like, is this thing? And I'm just like, no, it's neither. But thank you for being so interactive with my artwork.
That's so awesome. I love it so much. Well, Allison, we have to do more of these more often. So truth be told, I've never had, or maybe I haven't, maybe I have, but I don't think I've ever had a White Claw before today.
What? Really? That's
I
my
know.
drink of choice. I'm such a
So
lightweight.
good. It's so good.
And it's low calorie. And
I know.
yeah.
Wait, what flavor are you drinking?
Tangerine.
Okay, I need to try tangerine.
I'm so mad
Raspberry
because I
pretty
brought
good.
the mango out because of the Filipino connection, but I opened the wrong one.
Oh, that reminds me real quick.
Uh-huh.
The pieces from Vinta Gallery are coming in.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, Eileen's going to reach out soon so that we could do a little fitting.
Okay.
It's going to be so fun. So that's
I'm excited.
For those listening, we're going to have a little Filipina editorial coming up. So that's going to be dope to have all these amazing Filipina entrepreneurs, artists, with a Toronto-based fashion designer who does like the modern take on Filipino traditional pieces. So be on the lookout because we're just gonna have fun. We're just gonna take some photos and get all dolled up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I'm gonna come out and visit, or you have to come out and visit, and let's go hang outside of all this.
Yes. I think you mentioned getting drinks at the Claremont one time, so can we do that?
Oh,
Are they open?
They're open on Fridays and Saturdays. Can we?
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna set up. I'll hit you up later, and we'll set something up soon.
Well, it was so great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this and for kicking off Filipina Week at CL. Like this is awesome, and I'm just in awe by you. So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing because you're magical. Okay. All right. Bye.